Hello. Well, there we were, happily sort of sat just talking about what it is we're going to do. And I've got all of my bits and pieces behind the scenes set up, ready to click all the buttons that I need to click. And I was just looking up at the comment section. I'm like, crikey, we got 19 of them already. And even as that's gone on, we've got another 8. 27 of you sat waiting. My goodness, what an absolute delight. So hello, everyone. Sorry we're a little bit late. I'll be much less tardy, I think, next time if you're all going to be sat there waiting for me. So good stuff. We're here, and look at the gang we've put together today. We've managed to get people from all over the globe, actually. We've got people as far-flung as America there. Hi, Beth. How are you? We've got people not so far away over on the Emerald Isle and coming to visit next weekend. Hi, Sarah. And, of course, we've got John, who is about as Manchester as, well, I suppose we could say Oasis, but I don't know if you'll like that. No. Stone Roses, would you prefer that?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
There we go. He's as Mancunian as the Stone Roses. So there we go. Listen, we've got loads to chat about today. Loads. So we're going to dive right in, I think. And listen, this is not my choice of subject. This is something I've been asked to do. So we're going to do the best that we can. I've done a bit of research. But before we do that, talking about the transfers in, I want to have a quick chat about the ones that we've sent out. So Grace Clinton obviously has gone out on loan. I'm going to assume the answer is pretty similar for all of you, but happy with the fact that Grace Clinton's gone off to Bristol City to try and develop, as she wasn't getting any starts for us. Do we feel like that's the right thing for Grace Clinton to do? I'll be quite happy with that. Sarah, you can kick off.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I know a lot of us were confused about why she wasn't being named on the bench for, cup games especially. But, she has been kind of marked as one for the future. So she needs the minutes. I think it'll be good for Marc as well to get a look at how she does. And let's be honest, she made the best start she possibly could have at Bristol City. She scored on her debut. So that will have pleased everybody at United, I think. So lots to look forward to when she does come back. Be keeping a close eye on her to see how she does. But yeah, I think she'll hopefully have a very good season there, and they'll be getting a top young player as well.
Absolutely. It's interesting, John, because Sarah mentions her first game, and absolutely what a debut that is to go and score. Probably not quite so excited about the second game where she managed to get a red card, but what was your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I think it is a good move, and she obviously needs to get a few minutes now, and obviously it's going to be challenging for her to get minutes at United, and I think that I think she spent the first part of the season injured, if I remember rightly, but and unfortunately she has struggled to get minutes here, but I do think she is young and you can see the potential that she can be one for the future. So I do think it's the right move for her to get regular minutes at Bristol. It's obviously a very competitive league, the Championship, and hopefully she'll do well at Bristol the rest of this season, and maybe next season we can look to use a little bit more perhaps. But yeah, it's a good move.
Absolutely. And Beth, would you pretty much echo what's been said already, or do you feel like we should have kept Grace and tried to develop her here?
No, I agree with everybody. I think it's a good move. Get some first team football and then come back and try to get a spot in the first team with us.
There we go then. Brilliant. One down. More to go. And speaking of Moore and Staniforth, 2 players very similar in ilk and age and sort of amount of games they played for the club. We've put one of them on loan, that's off to Reading, and one on a permanent to Aston Villa. First of all, I suppose any shocks, any surprises there in the 2 of them leaving the club? And do you find it interesting? Because I found it interesting that one of them is a straight up sale, goodbye, thanks for your services, don't need you anymore, Tar. And another one who's going to be, okay, well, there's a chance that you could come back and maybe there'll be a space for you next season. So we'll go the other way around this time. Beth, what do you think?
I think I'm slightly surprised just because of both of them being kind of Marc Skinner-esque players. But at the same time, I'm not surprised at all. We knew that they weren't really probably going to get a lot of game time. But Yeah. And the caliber of players that we need to bring in to get into Europe and then stay in Europe. As much as I love them, probably not and the age profile, probably not the best. I am slightly surprised that one is alone and one isn't. But at the same time, again, I'm not surprised. Like, part of me is surprised. The other part of me isn't. I don't really know.
Fair enough. There's lots of you talking about Alessia Russo. Never fear. I'm sure we'll spend 30 seconds or so having a chat about the Alessia Russo saga, the blip, shall we say. But before we do, I mean, John, you've been to a fair few of the matches. You've seen the impact Lucy's had, the impact that Jade had. Often when they were brought on, I think I was a bit surprised pre-season because they started more than I expected them to in pre-season. And there was certainly some debate amongst the fans on the stands that they might even start going into the WSL season. It didn't really prove to be the case in the end. But, how do you feel about that? Because they played reasonably well when they came on. But they weren't really the players to take us to the next level as such, were they? So what was your thoughts on Marc showing them the door?
Yeah, I think Lucy, obviously, she's been here with us for a few years. She's been a bit unlucky with injury at times. And obviously we made the decision to renew her contract in the summer as well, which I can only think you'd do that to maybe get a bit of money in return. And obviously we cancelled the contract. What the reason for that was, I don't know. But for me, it did seem a bit odd offering a new contract and then cancelling it within 6 months. But for me, she was obviously a sub. I think it was the Chelsea game, wasn't it, when Skinner brought her on, and we're all a bit like that. Seemed a little bit odd for me, and obviously she's been a good servant club and that, and like you say, I think to get to the next level, perhaps you need something a bit more than that. And but obviously, I think she needs to get minutes. Obviously, she's approaching the twilight of her career, and I think going to Aston Villa is a good move for her. As for Jade Moore, obviously we brought her in last January, and it took a while to get going. She was injured to begin with. I think it was West Ham away. She made the debut. I don't think she's really made the impact we would have liked her to. Obviously, that's not to say she's done badly, not at all. But I just think that, again, you need something a bit more. And obviously, I think Marc's worked with her before on that. And I think he wants someone with that experience who he knew to come in and do a job, perhaps. And obviously, her minutes were limited. So I think for her too, I think it's right that she moves on to past new. And it's a bit different with Clinton because Clinton's in the early days of her career, whereas Jade's obviously gone alone and she's approaching kind of the end. So for me, that's a sign of, I think it's time to move on, basically. But yeah, obviously we wish them both the best.
Absolutely. And Sarah, would you have played it differently? Would you have kept Stani as going on loan and being available again next season for us, and more being the one who was sold? Do you think it's more just about, Carla Ward wanted to take Lucy permanently, whereas Jade, perhaps Reading just want to sort of see if they're still going to be in the division, perhaps, and not want to commit to the wages and such like? Why do you think one's a loan and one is thanks for your services, goodbye?
I hadn't really thought of it that way, but if it was me, I probably would consider it the other way around. But then again, the reasons that you just outlined are probably true. I mean, it seems like Villa really wanted her, and I think it is definitely going to be a good move for her, and she'll be targeting a World Cup place as well. So she really needs those minutes. I mean, obviously a loan deal would probably have been enough to get her those anyway, but it's what I think we discussed it before when she first moved. What I found strange was the fact that she was allowed to go for free. So still can't work that one out, but I would have been happy if it had been a loan and then just reassess in the summer. But I think with Jade, I mean, it's difficult to say like whether she might come back maybe at the end, given her age as well. But I suppose we'll just have to see how she does for Reading in the next few months and then go from there. But yeah, I do think I'm happy with the outgoings while they've both done really well for us. And, Jade got a couple of goals as well, but she just, it's probably better for her to get more game time elsewhere. So
there we go then. Ticking them off, Connor, as we go. But those are the ones that went out. And to be fair, I think all of us who have watched United would say, again, thank you to Stanny for the time that she gave us. She scored some good goals, she did some good things, and we wish her the best of luck at Aston Villa. And fair play, fight for fourth or third, because I don't think we're going to need that. We'll be in the top two for sure. So crack on and enjoy it. And yeah, Jade Moore hopefully stays up with Reading, and Grace Clinton should hopefully get lots of good practice whilst playing with Bristol City, ready to come back for next season and see if she can fight for her place. But those were the outs. Taking our hokey cokey a little bit further, let's go back in. And we got three, a trio, a triumvirate of players to come in. Interestingly enough, only one of them fit enough to play throughout the month of February. So we'll talk about her first. We had Estelle Cascarino, 25 years old, only ever played in the French leagues. So first time outside of her home country. And interestingly enough, never scored a club goal as yet, even for France in the French leagues. So it'll be interesting to see if she can do anything about that now. But we saw her for a little bit in that game at the weekend against Sunderland. How did we feel having seen Cascarino? Do we think she's got a little bit about her? Do we think she's going to be someone who could set in well? Would you think she needs to do more? Do we need to give her more time? Obviously, we need to give her more time, but I'll throw that one out there as if it's a question. And we're going to kick off with you first, John, on this one. Look at me throwing it all about. Nobody knows when they're going to get.
Yeah, it was obviously good that she managed to get a few minutes away at Sunderland in the Cup. I wasn't aware that she'd never scored before, much like another midfielder we used to have, but we won't go into that. But for me, I think it's good that you're adding value to the team and that, and obviously hopefully she will. It'll take a game or two to get used to English league. Obviously, as we know, the English game is usually quite physical, and that obviously the French league is very competitive. You got PSG, you got Lyon as well, and for me, she's. I don't know much about her as I've never watched her before, but I think it's important that you add the strength and the depth to the team. You got to be able to rotate when you if players get injured and that kind of thing, and that's what Marc has tried to address this January, to add strength and depth so that we can be competitive in the league and hopefully in the FA Cup as well. But yeah, it was good seeing she did really well when she came on. No qualms, no danger, nothing unbelievable. But hopefully after a few games, when she get used to it, she can contribute a few things for us, and it'd be nice if she could get a goal.
Absolutely, yeah, it would be lovely. And I mean, she had a couple of goes, to be fair, Beth. I don't know if did you see any of the Sunderland game?
Yeah, I saw a couple minutes of it, and I actually did see whenever she had kind of a clear shot on goal, and I was just like, how did you miss that? But it was also a good save from the keeper at the same time. But
I mean, to be fair, if she was playing NFL, 100% that was going through the sticks, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I agree with everybody. I hope give her a little bit more time. She looked, like John said, she didn't look like she was like a world beater. But if she can bring us a little bit more depth, and granted, we already have that, but at the same time, it's nice to have more, I guess. But we'll see. I hope she can do well for us.
Absolutely. And Sarah, if you can respond to our old friend here, good password, then I said that last time, trying to play on jokes. She can cover in more than one spot. So, I mean, we saw her more playing central midfield, I think, against Sunderland. But if she can cover at fullback and centre back, that defence, we're going to talk about that in a bit, but I mean, it's pretty locked in at the moment. I can't really see there being too much space to drop into there as it stands. What's your thoughts on having a player like this who sounds a little bit like John O'Shea used to be for the men, just sort of going wherever it is that Fergie decides to put them, and hopefully they do a good job, solid, but maybe not outstanding. And him, but he went to Everton, so we don't talk about him much.
Yeah, I mean, John O'Shea played in goal on one occasion, let's not forget. So high hopes for Cascarino between the sticks, maybe. No, seriously, though, I think that is very encouraging that she can fill in so many different positions. And I mean, when she signed, I didn't really know much about her. I know her twin sister obviously has, played a lot of games for France. But I wasn't aware that I knew she could play in central midfield. Didn't know she could play fullback as well. So I think that'll be, that's really important because we've said before we definitely need cover a fullback. I didn't actually see the Sunderland game because I was on a train, so I missed a lot of it. But did hear that she did a good job, so that's always good to hear. Yeah, I'm excited to see more of her, see what she can bring to the team. It's just good to have that depth.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. So I think that's really good news about Cascarino. And again, she's played one game. I don't think anybody's going to judge her on that one game, much less her shooting ability. I mean, it took Hannah Blundell a while, and then look at the one that she banged in. It left all of us stood there going, was that Hannah? Oh my goodness, that was Hannah. Unbelievable. And now you can't stop her from having a shot, so it's even better. So good stuff. So that's Cascarino. That's nice. And we've had a bit of a chat about her with regards to the Sunderland review as well. So we will move swiftly on to our two other players. And we'll kick off with Jayde Riviere. And again, a very interesting one, I thought. I've had to do research, like I say. So I've actually looked through things to see what's going on with some of these players. And again, her backstory, club-wise, isn't all that. I have to say, there's no names of anything as such. So she was at AFC Ann Arbor, which is an American League one. Do you know them, Beth? You ever heard of them? In the USL League 2?
I haven't, but at the same time, I also haven't been that closely watching like lower leagues in the US, unfortunately, until very, very recently.
Well, there we go then. So that explains that one. She only played 4 times there then anyway. But before then, she was in college, obviously, and her college was Michigan Wolverines. That's where she spent most of her time, played 47 games. But what gets me about this, that was when she was injured and she got the lower body, which I think was the back. I think that's what they said was the injury. But during all of that time, she had 36 appearances for Canada's national team. And Canada's national team are no slouches. They're pretty good. I can remember doing a prediction league for them, and I just went, yeah, we'll smash Canada. And then we watched them and went, oh, right, maybe we won't. This is whilst I was learning about women's football and who's good and who's not. And they're good. So that was quite a surprise for me to read that. She's only 22, so she's young. It makes sense, only just out of college. But another bit of news that was quite cool about her was that she actually rejected professional offers to play professionally so that she could go to college. So she's got her head screwed on as well, which is really quite good. And here's your first fact of the day. When she made her senior debut for Canada, which was in 2017, so that was 6 years ago, she was 16 years old when she made her debut. This is what makes her sound exciting to me. But guess who she was brought on for? Guess who she replaced? None of you? Adriana Leon.
Oh, I thought.
Obviously, it was going to be a Man United player. Just guess random people. So, yeah, that was who she came on for, Adriana Leon, which I thought was quite cool. So, Sarah, we'll kick off with you on this one. What's your thoughts on Riviere as a sign-in? And do you think she's going to have much of an impact? Are you excited to see her in March?
I am really excited to see her, I have to say, because I didn't know really anything about her for, all the reasons that you just outlined. But I knew we'd been linked with her for a while, and a lot of people seemed very excited about her abilities, and obviously featuring so many times for Canada and, gold medalist as well at the Olympics. That's, that's really good to have on your CV. On a side note, I'm slightly worried because Canada are in Ireland's World Cup group. So yeah, be interested to see how that pans out. But I am really looking forward to seeing what she can do, and very glad to see as well that she's such a big United fan, which obviously influenced her choice. I wasn't aware of that when I heard, that we were interested in her. And also the fact that she had interest from clubs in Spain and France, I think. That's usually a good sign too. So she does sound like a very exciting young player. Really looking forward to watching her.
She really does. And it's almost like it's in the job interview, doesn't it? You can sort of imagine when you meet up with these players, you can just imagine Mark sort of stood there asking the questions, like what do you want wage-wise, all that. Do you support Man United? Seems to be one of the questions, because the amount of people that come into us and are Man United fans, it doesn't feel like much of a coincidence to me. John, what's your thoughts on Jayde Riviere and what you've heard and seen so far?
Yeah, well, I think she's clearly got a lot of talent, to play 36 caps for a 22-year-old is obviously a brilliant achievement for her, and obviously the Canada team is obviously a very good team. So clearly she's got talent and that, and I think also because people mentioned in the comments, things like you got to look to the future, and it's like the situations with someone like owner's contract, possibly. You got to start thinking about that. In the worst case scenario, what we're going to do is it's a signing where we're looking at the future, possibly in terms of like, is she coming in for 6 months to replace someone in the summer, possibly, or is it that you're genuinely building the strength in depth? Again, which for me, either way, it's obviously an encouraging signing that obviously she, it's a big tick Sporting United than that, but I think it's more important that you get the right young players in and that they're competitive and that they can obviously challenge for positions in the team. And I think if she does manage to do that, then this team's going from strength to strength. But yeah, I've not seen much of her, but from what I've heard, she's obviously going to be very talented, and maybe, hopefully, within a few years, hopefully one of the world's best in a position, but we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. And Beth, we're going to ask you to talk a little bit about this, the fact that we do have two of the best fullbacks at the moment. So, excuse me. Frog in my throat, not being able to talk properly. That's no good to anybody. People think I'm having Wi-Fi issues again. So obviously two great fullbacks, which is going to be hard for them to jump into. But I kind of also want, as you are someone from North America, just a little bit of a chat on the whole college system, because it is something that you guys in North America do incredibly well. You get these people to understand that an education is just as important as the sporting side of it. You make them do both. And you look at people like, dare I say his name, Tom Brady for the Bucks, and how long he's managed to go. That whole idea that they start off at a college first before they then move immediately into professional football or soccer or whatever it is that you guys are calling the game over there. Hopefully you're coming around to the way it was meant to be and calling it football, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the college system, it is something quite good, and it seems to be working quite well here, because obviously Leslie was there during the college system. There was another one earlier on. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the comment. Was it Jesse Fleming? Was that the one that was mentioned as going through it as well? So it's a really good system, isn't it?
It is a good system to an extent. I think a big problem with the college system is the technical training and the tactical training. That is a little lackluster here in the States, but the fact that they do get an education is wonderful. I think it was more of a better option years ago when we didn't have a league and there wasn't a lot of leagues over in Europe, because now you can go into Europe, you can go do other stuff. And I noticed somebody else said, like, Lucy Bronze played at UNC, Rachel Daly played at, I can't remember the college she went to. Lotta Wobbemoy was at UNC as well. An education is a very, very good thing. And if you can go to the right college with the right coach, it's just as good as going to maybe a mid-level club over in Europe, and you also get an education. The only issue with college is the financial aspect of it, and there's a lot of people that can't afford it. Understandably, I'm still in debt, and I graduated like 6 or 7 years ago now, and I know people who are still massively in debt. The only good thing is in college for that, it depends on the college that you get some sort of financial package, but an education is, like you were saying, is a very, very, very good thing to get, because especially in women's football, they don't get paid enough to have financial stability for the rest of their career. And if you have something to fall back on, that's a great thing. The other, I think, kind of issue with the college thing, I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It is a great thing. But you also have to be very selective in the major that you go into. And a lot of people either do communications. I did sport administration, sport management. That's something, I think actually Leslie did that at UNC is what I read. And those are great because you can do them online. Like you can absolutely, you can travel and not be in the classroom and still get great education. If you're going for an engineering degree, which I know Tierna Davidson did at Stanford, she's one of the best defenders for the U.S. Women's National Team. She was injured for a while, but she left college early to go pro, and so did Mal Pugh. But it is a good system if you get in, like I said before, if you get into the correct or good environment with the right coaching and the right training levels. Because there's a lot of lower level colleges that don't have the facilities that are required or that would be good enough. But the major colleges, University of North Carolina is a huge one. Stanford is a huge one. UCLA, Penn State, kind of debatable. I like Penn State. My parents went there. I'm trying to think of other ones. Rutgers isn't terrible. I think Carly Lloyd went to Rutgers. There's a couple colleges that those schools, if you can get into and go get an education, then also play, it's wonderful. There are instances where people can go to, let's say, I think somebody went to Washington and was still able to get, there's a lot of different paths you could take. Yeah. Just to narrow it down, there's a lot of different paths. It's good for some people. It may not be right for all the people. But I think now with universities being able to have online classes, you can go pro and still technically get a college education. So, But in the past, 100%, it was the best way to go. 100%, I agree with you.
Really cool. It's very interesting. Anton's put here, college system good for many, but Mateus, Mead, and Kerr, top 3 Ballon d'Or, didn't go through college systems. Maybe not a one-size-fits-all situation, which is good. Because TJ says it's an option. But I think really what I wanted to use that as was the tool to show how much the game is growing. Because when you think about the college system and everything you're talking about, obviously the thing that will stick in most certainly Man United fans, if not most people that were alive in the 90s mind, is Bend It Like Beckham. And the fact that for Keira Knightley to have any ability whatsoever, any ability to do better and show her ability, she had to go to America in order to progress. So the fact that now there are these other options around Europe where people can grow through their clubs, it just shows how the game has certainly started growing from the bottom up.
It's also common in other sports that in this country, like cricket and in some cases rugby, where when you obviously playing and all that you can go and study as well, do a master's degree and that kind of thing. And I think that's something maybe we could be a little bit better at in this country, perhaps. It's interesting Beth said that because I'll be moving to Merrick, I hope, soon with my wife. So, so I'm sure I'll get used to the old college system there. Hopefully when I have a kid one day. But I think it's definitely something that not saying you have to copy it, but I think it's something you maybe need to look at in this country and, following the legacy, the Euros and all that, that's one thing you can look at. Can you improve the standard education for women in this country where, you can have competitive college size or whatever, and that can help feed the clubs and bring women's football to the people. So obviously it's you don't have to copy it, but I think you can certainly learn something from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is really interesting because there's a lot of talk over here in the States that maybe the college system isn't the best for professional players. So as you guys were saying, and as I said earlier, it's not a one size fits all, but it is kind of interesting to me that you guys over there really like the college system, and a lot of people over here are like, man, it's not the best. It was great, like you were saying, in the 90s and early 2000s, even early 2010s.
I mean,
we had more of an academy system. So.
You have a lot of footballers in this country who, don't have an education and manage to make a living, for example. So it's kind of like works. Whereas Wayne Rooney was playing Premier League football and he didn't even do his GCSE exams. So, it's just things like that. He's not done too badly for you.
I think that's what it's about. It's about giving them that option. But like I say, I think it really shows how the game's grown, and that's got to be a good thing. So we'll move on to our final person that's come in, which is, of course, Lisa Naalsund. Sporty thought that was a bit of a head scratcher, but we now know all the three people that left the midfielders. So perhaps Lisa will bring something different. Well, let me tell you a little bit about her. She played for Brann, played 77 games and scored 14 goals. And she was supposed to play in Euro 22, but she was injured in a friendly just beforehand, which didn't bode too well. She's 27 years of age, and she made her debut against Sweden in 2021. Does anyone know, fascinating fact, who she was substituted on for? Who did she replace?
Bo Reese.
Absolutely. You've got the idea of the game now. When I read that, and I'm like, two players that have come in and got their international debuts, and they were substituted on for players that currently play for Man United. That blew my mind. That's one of those coincidental things that just makes me so glad.
Well, let's hope it's not a case of, I think it was either Andy Cole debut for England and he came on for Teddy Sheringham and they never got on after. So hopefully there's an awesome relationship there, possibly. Hopefully she wishes them good luck and that.
So Lisa's another interesting one. She hasn't played for a while because of the off season and everything. So she's going to take a few weeks at least to get herself up to the playing levels that we needed to be at. So we shouldn't expect to see her until March, was the general gist of it. But are we excited about having Naalsund? Do we think this is a step up from the Moore/Stanny partnership that we could have potentially been putting on? Is this someone who's going to help us to fulfill our ambition of winning the league? And Sarah, we'll ask you.
I hope so. I mean, I don't really know much about her either. Haven't seen a lot of Norwegian football, but heard good things. I know there've been questions about where she's going to fit in this season. Will she start games? But I think the length of contract that she's been given and, the fee that we paid for are kind of indicators that she will be a key player for us going forward. If not this season, then certainly next season and beyond. I mean, I guess we have to make the assumption that, we're thinking ahead to possibly, hopefully, being in the Champions League and needing as much depth as we can get. And yeah, maybe she'll come off the bench this season, or maybe she will be a regular starter next season. Who knows? But I would say she definitely will be central to Marc Skinner's plans for the future. Otherwise, we wouldn't have, given her the contract that we did. I know there was a bit of doubt with the comments that she made a few weeks ago about, not getting game time and there's a risk that you'd be on the bench for 6 months, and she obviously wants to be in the World Cup. So that would have been a concern for her, but whatever they've said to convince her has obviously worked. So.
Absolutely. I've just put this up by TJ Riviere, picking on her too for joining us. And John, this was absolutely the thing, wasn't it? Vilda was basically told to leave us if she wanted to play in the World Cup next year. She hasn't. She's still here. And here we've also got Lisa Naalsund, who's basically said to Mr. Risa, no, see you later.
Yeah, well, I think that ultimately you can only pick 11 players, and use Roy Keane's argument: if you want to be playing, you've got to be, you got to demonstrate in training that you're capable of playing. Obviously, Vilda got an opportunity at the weekend, and again, she was solid and all that, but that's the thing. She's solid. It's not that spectacular or anything. So obviously I do like Vilda. She's a very good player, but I just think that if you want to play, if you want to be playing, you got to demonstrate that you want to play it in training. You got to be competitive and all that. And the games when some of our fringe players come on, they have done well. But if you want to impress, be challenging for the first team, you got to do a bit more. As for the signing of Lisa, again, it's not a player I've seen much of or heard of that much, but from understanding people I've watched in comparison to Vilda, she's, I think Vilda's more like keep it simple kind of thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whereas I think Lisa maybe a little bit more combative, maybe be more of a presence perhaps when she's playing. Obviously, only time will tell when. Hopefully she'll come back in March and that. So for me, I am excited to see, and I think you do need to go to the next level. You do need more from our midfield, to be, in those bigger games. Your Arsenal, your Chelsea, obviously beating Arsenal, but we need to be a bit more, we haven't beaten Chelsea yet. So you want to, midfield, which is competitive against those teams, and you have to get used to playing them, not just in league games, but also cup games and all that. And I think you need a more competitive midfield, and I think that's something hopefully that she'll bring.
Absolutely. Beth, feel free to talk a little bit about Lisa Naalsund if you want, but I also want you to kick us off on our next little bit, which is, of course, Alessia Russo. It's taken us 37.5 minutes, but at some point you have to talk about the elephant in the room. Not that Lessie's an elephant, of course, but the fact that she's staying. So talk to me. Alessia Russo, we kept her. Didn't matter what was going on. World record bid once. No, thank you, Arsenal. World record bid twice. No thanks, Arsenal. Leon, what's that? Can't hear you. La, 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 la. Oh, what a shame it's gone midnight. Never mind. Maybe next time. What's your thoughts? Alessia Russo, still here. Surely we're winning the league now.
Yeah, I hope so. I really, really hope so. I hope we can win everything and frankly have it not bite us in the butt. That's my biggest hope. I'm hoping that they figure out a way to keep her. Even if we just get top 3, I hope we can figure out a way to keep her. Yeah. I'm happy. I'm very happy. I'm happy and okay. Do I want her to stay? Absolutely. Will she stay? I hope so. I really, really hope so. Am I extremely pleased with how we basically told Arsenal and everyone else, sorry, doesn't matter how much you give us, she's staying. And obviously Leslie wasn't like, hey, let me leave. That's also a good sign, a really, really good sign. So
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I'm skeptically optimistic, especially because if she wanted to leave, she probably would have left. She probably would have walked in there and said, hey, they offered me this much money. Why aren't you letting me leave? That obviously didn't happen because she's still here.
Yeah, I was encouraged by Marc Skinner's comments that, he spoke to her this morning and she was, very relaxed about the whole thing. Seemingly she's enjoying herself at United. She's happy to see, how things go. And the key comment, I think, was she wants to win things here, I think is what he said. So that is a good sign. I mean, it obviously, I'd say her decision will hinge on whether we get Champions League. And if we don't, I would expect her to leave. But I think, that's what we're banking on at the moment. That's what she's banking on. Now, having said that, players are saying they want to be in the Champions League and then they'll make a decision. But obviously, if that's what you want, you have to go out there and get it, get your team into that position. So a lot of that responsibility is on them to do that. So, yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
John?
Yeah, I completely agree with what they've all said. She wants Champions League football. Well, she's got to help us get there. I think it's the right decision for the club. It would have been like, in the men's game when we signed Van Persie from Arsenal. It would have been absolute madness to do it, even if it was a record bid. And I think in fairness to Lessie, I'm not sure she's made a decision regarding what she wants to do with the future. I don't think she's fully decided on staying, but neither leave. And I think she wants to wait and see how this season pans out. And obviously, hopefully, she does stay in that. But I think that you've got to. I personally think she wouldn't have been rushed into making that decision about whether Arsenal. She wants to go to Arsenal and that. And obviously, we've been told she's a big United fan, so you could have called that into question if she had decided to go to Arsenal as well. But ultimately, for her sake, you want to be keeping your options open, basically, and basically, if she is to leave, then she'll have so many offers in the summer, and then she can pick the right one. So for her own sake, to make a rushed decision like that won't make any. And as for United, we badly need her. We do need to get in the top three this season. You want to be competitive in the league. If you'd sold Russo, in terms of scoring the transfer market, all that, we've had a good window. If you let her go, you might as well knock it down like 3 points or whatever. So for me, it was the right decision to keep her. Hopefully she does sign a contract. It was a difficult situation for the club to have to be put in that position. But I think they made the right decision for now. And obviously we'll see how the rest of the season pans out.
Brilliant. All right, we've all got fingers, I hope. So we're going to, after 3, put our hands up with what we think out of 10 this transfer window is, with 10 being, oh my goodness, you are an absolute don and you're better than chocolate ice cream. 10. And with 1 being, boo, get out of here, you're terrible. Okay, so after 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, I've gone 8. We've got 7s. And so there we go. So the tops have gone 8. The bottoms have gone 7. It's almost like they've been talking to each other. But yes, very good. There we go then. So 7, and lots of them. Connor's gone 8.5 out of 10 because he's got to be awkward. He can never just go 8 or 9. But as Connor will know, being a maths genius, 8.5 when you round up is 9. So Connor has gone 9 out of 10, which I think is quite high. TJ's gone 7. Ellie 8. Interesting. Jennifer's gone 5. That's interesting.
8 explain, Jennifer.
Yes, I think she might have to. We've got 9, an 8 there from Sporty. So we're looking at 8s, and I'm presuming this is 8 and not 8.3. Yeah, 8. 3 good signings unless he stays. So that's all good. So there we go. 6 from Titus. Some people, feeling it's bang average. But there we go. So good stuff. That's the transfer window done. I hope you enjoyed that, Connor. Now, listen, I had 2 things to talk about, but time is vastly running out. And we kind of spoke about the defence 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to labour this point other than to say we're just going to make this into literally a yes or no answer, this one. Okay, so Millie Turner obviously signed a contract extension. Great news again that we've got somebody staying. And interestingly enough, we had one of the Kimitars. I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was because it was a very short clip and it didn't actually say the name, so I don't know. They do look very, very similar, those twins. So Rosie and Molly, I don't know which one you were, sorry. But they were saying that they think our defence currently is better than Chelsea's. Now, this is something amazing for Man United, I reckon, to be getting the media attention now where we're actually being not just spoken about as part of the top 3, but that parts of our squad might actually be better than other people's squads. So, yes or no, and get yourself involved in the comments here as well. You've been brilliant so far. Is Manchester United's defence currently better than Chelsea's? Yes or no? Beth?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. John?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
So next question, why did we concede 3 against them? Where did we go wrong? John, you were there. Perhaps you could help.
Yeah. Well, I think that game, the thing about defending, it's not just the defenders, the goalkeeper, the whole team has to defend. So, and as for the Chelsea League game, it wasn't just defensive errors. Military obviously getting the ball when the second, but it wasn't. The midfield wasn't tracking its runners. It wasn't helping the full-backs and all that. So, the defense as a whole, you got to be compact completely. But obviously, mentioned this before, we've conceded 6 against the top 3 in 3 games. That has to improve. But against every other team, we haven't conceded in the league, which is remarkable. Even Chelsea conceded 4 goals in 2 games against Liverpool. We didn't concede 1. I think they scored against City as well, and don't think also gets clean sheet. But yeah, Chelsea have been conceding goals against these lesser teams. They lost to Liverpool, but we, aside from the top 3, haven't conceded any.
Chris Ratcliffe's gone for the Daniel Powter excuse. We had a bad day, but there we go. And if you don't know, that's who sang the song "Bad Day." I realise it's an older song, so some of you might not get that.
First thing that came into my head.
Exactly right. As soon as if you had a bad day, it's a good song. Look it up, right? Honestly, you'll be tapping your toes. But there we go. Most people said yes. There are a couple who said no. And yes, TJ, it might have been an ouch, but I mean, it's true. Half of our goals were conceded against them. So interesting. If we hadn't played them, we'd have only had 3, which would have made us the best defence in Europe. But there we go. Listen, I want to finish off a bit like I did last time. I like to try and get into some of these meatier topics, and it's a shame we sort of have to leave them till the end sometimes because obviously we're primarily a Manchester United channel, so we try and talk about Manchester United first. But I just wanted to kind of get this in there. So we're going to go into a slightly more meatier subject. We're hoping to be finished by 8 o'clock. We should be really. But let's be honest, we're 3-0 up, so even if we miss the first 15 minutes, I doubt we're going to be in too much trouble when you turn it on. What I really wanted to talk about was just women's sport as much as anything else, because I noticed once again there was a tweet that was put out and somebody's decided to get involved in that. And it's primarily men that just feel they have to denigrate women's sport. They can't just look at it and go, not interested in that, and walk past and scroll past. They feel like they've got to come in and say something. And I think one of the ideal examples of this was when Beth Mead won the Sports Personality of the Year. I've never seen such gnashing and wailing of teeth as I did at the fact that a woman has won Sports Personality of the Year rather than a boxer or a Formula One driver or somebody else. And I get that everybody has their reasons for thinking that somebody might be better than somebody else. But when England haven't won a major trophy in what feels like hundreds of years, to do something like that at home that was akin to the 1966 World Cup final, it's been that long. For us to do that, it was quite a big thing. And Beth Mead had an absolutely superb season. So for me, she absolutely deserved it. My question to you guys, and we're going to kick off with the girls first, did you notice this a lot in your mentions? Do you find yourself being told almost effectively, shut up, you're a woman, what do you know when it comes to sport? Do you feel that your opinions don't count as much as some of the other people, the men, for example, in the game? That's if you feel like answering that. If not, you might just want to say, yeah, I've seen horrible people in other people's tweets. But, what are you seeing in your mentions and in your daily lives, I suppose, Beth?
Yeah, thankfully, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of crap, and even coming from other women, I've had other women be like, well, I don't like women's sports, I'd rather just watch the men's. And I'm like, well, that's kind of crappy on your part. But other than that, most of the people that I have surrounding me, including coworkers, actually listen to my opinion and are like, oh yeah, that's a good point. But when we talk about women's sports, they don't. it's weird because they'll just be like, well, I just don't watch it. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we move on. But I've seen some pretty crappy stuff. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but not to like put it on blast, but misogyny, it's really crappy. And they just have to make it known that they don't think that you know what you're talking about, even though you know that you know what you're talking about. And people will just be jerks about it. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
100%. I know we're on a very serious topic right now, but as he's just arrived, he's put Yehuda, keep your eyes out at the weekend for this lady just here, because she's also going to the Everton game. So you might be able to see each other there and have a little AFU hey five. I'm really struggling with the English today. High five. And that would be cool. But yeah, Sarah, for you, things that you might have noticed in your daily life?
Yeah, so many. I mean, me personally, I've had male family members question, why would you go and see a women's football match? You know, like they wouldn't question if I went to Old Trafford to watch the men, but it's just like, why would they can't understand why I as a woman would want to watch women play football, which is kind of hilarious. But and then not so much aimed at me directly, but I see things, it's almost like people will use it as an insult, like, oh, this referee or this person was so bad, they should be in the WSL or something like that, as if it's, you know, just kind of, let's all laugh at how inferior it supposedly is. Things like that. And then just, yeah, it's gone out of my head now, but kind of just like, you know, still perpetuating this narrative of, oh, there's no skill involved, you know, they're not fast enough, they don't, you know, all that kind of thing. Yeah, I just see it a lot. And then also, yeah, I had an important point to make, but it's completely left my head, unfortunately.
Thinking about it, it will come back, I'm sure. Because, John, I kind of want to ask you, like, we're both men, and you know, me and you argue a lot.
Yeah.
We do. You know, there's been a lot of things where I'm like, no, I don't agree with that, John. You're like, yeah, shut up. I don't agree with that either. We just get on with it. But at no point do we get to a point where we are being personal or horrible to each other. It's just an acceptance that you've got a different opinion to me, and we move on. And we both make our points, potentially forcefully, and then go, yeah, what does he know? And then crack on and make a cup of tea and have a biscuit with it. And then the next day, all is well. They just don't seem in. I mean, this is it. It says a lot about the man in question, if you ask me. And I always go back to like Ricky Gervais. I think he has the best example of this when it comes to seeing things that you don't like. And he says on Twitter, he's just talking in general. He's not talking to any. It's not. This isn't just for you, Beth. This isn't just for you, Sarah. I'm not talking just to women. I'm not just. It's there. It's my thoughts. It's gone out for everyone. And if you don't like it, why are you interacting with it? And it's the equivalent of putting up a sign in a post office or in a supermarket that says free guitar lessons or free piano lessons, and call this number. And somebody stopping from their shopping, looking at it and going, but I don't want guitar lessons. Putting it down, getting their phone up and being like, I don't want guitar lessons. Why are you putting something up there asking me if I want guitar lessons? Why? When really all they had to do was carry on walking with their shopping, go back to their car and have a lovely day. But for some reason, they feel like they have to get involved. They have to do something. And as Sporty says, it's about getting a reaction. Why? Why do men feel like they need to do that?
I honestly don't know. I have seen instances of it on social media, and it's very sad to see. Luckily, I've not really had anyone attack me personally for promoting women's channel, women's football. I've had a few comments where it's been like it's not for me what you're talking about. Is you don't have to follow me, do you, kind of thing. But for me, it symbolises where I think some people, they have to have an opinion on everything, and their opinion's right. I think that's what it comes down to. And unfortunately, you do have some people close minds. I mean, there's no problem. There are subtle differences between like the men and the women's game, and I can see why some people might not be the biggest fan of women's football. I am trying to get people more into it. And I do think during the Euros, more people won't typically be into the women's game. They were attracted by it, and that is and that resulted obviously Beth me getting an award. I do remember before social media, I think it was Kelly Holmes won it once, I think around 2004, but she won 2 gold medals at the Olympics. So so I think it's more social media. It's obviously great for interacting with people and connecting with, professionals and all that, but the bad side to it is kind of like, you do get idiots who do like to post horrible comments and that kind of thing. And I do think you got a lot of words to, by trade with you, Barry, obviously men, we are white people as well, and we don't face the same kind of negative attitudes as what women do, or mixed race people, black people do. And we're very lucky that we don't have to experience that on a day-to-day basis, whereas some people like Beth and Sarah might have to face it in their day-to-day lives. And for me, it's just I think it's a societal problem, not just sporting problem. And I just think some people are closed minds, need to be horrible, and you can't convince an idiot. Some people just start shouting at a wall, and you can't convince otherwise. So I think it's just best to ignore them, and attract people who you think are open-minded to these things and try and bring them along. And I think that's what I've tried to, and you tried to, and I think all of us have. And I think that's what we got to continue to do. But, in my opinion, women's sport has a lot to offer. The women's team will influence a lot of women to come and play football. And I think over the next 15, 20 years, you'll find a lot more women wanting to play sport, and the inclusivity it brings and all that. But for me, it's definitely going to I think the achievement of the women's team last year will propel a change of attitudes. Unfortunately, you won't bring everyone with you, but I think you've got to focus on mainly the positives rather than the negatives of a few idiots, basically.
Yeah, what I've noticed as well is this tendency to separate, these guys will say, your game, stick to your game, don't talk about our game, when it's all the same sport. We're all doing the same things. So that's another thing that has annoyed me, and just how people can't see that it's beyond me, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Sarah's put here, it's not just men that think like this. Some women actually think like this.
That's true. I've been surprised. There are quite a few women friends who say, I've got no interest in women's football, I prefer men's game, which is, I guess, fair enough. But, it's not like saying, women's football is absolutely dreadful and all that. It's just not for me. And that's, if you don't want it, that's fine, But,
absolutely.
Don't need to be nasty and horrible about it.
Unfortunately, that wasn't my coworker. She was just like, why do women have to play sports? I'm like, you played sports growing up. Shut your mouth.
Hopefully there'll be a change. Last year, it's like in the 50s, it would have been like, women have to go to work.
Yeah.
It's like it's the man's job to earn. The woman does the woman does the housework. But obviously, I think in years to come, I'm sure as we get older, and that, I'm sure over the next few decades, you will have a lot more uptake in women doing professional sports. And I think that this goes back to the college system in America. We need to improve our education facilities to allow girls to get playing sport competitively and given that opportunity, and that because and I think that will benefit us for the future.
Absolutely. A few other comments that people have put in. Anton, for a few minutes, insecurity that a woman athlete is faster and stronger than them. I've made no secret of the fact I spend a lot of time doing some of the media stuff with Stevenage women. And I've got zero problems admitting that they've got more talent in their little toe than I've got in my entire body. I was watching one of them, Amy Goodrum, the other night, and she's only just come back from injury, and she was sat there doing the, well, not sat, she stood doing these keepy uppies, one foot after the other. She did this for 5 minutes solid. And she said to me, do you want to have a go? And I'm like, well, I would, but I'll do about 2. And that's if I'm lucky. And then that'll be one, and I'll look like an idiot. But it's like, you don't have to feel bad about these things. People have talent. You don't look at a talented artist and go, oh, my goodness, how can you be better than me at that? So why do you allow yourself to get so upset about this? And again, Twitter is bad for opinions. It absolutely is. It's not good for a decent discussion. And that's the problem when it's strangers, I suppose. It's why I don't tend to go too mad on Twitter. But when they're people that you know and you start to have a chat with them about it, and then other people jump on it, I think that's generally when it tends to be a bit of a nightmare. And as TJ says, absolutely, it's particularly bad on the Bird app. So, yeah, it's not ideal. I now see girls kicking the ball in the street with the boys, and this is exactly it. You said, Sarah, about how some people are saying stick to your sport. It used to be that the vast majority of women would sit there and go, oh, not the football again, or oh, not this. And now we're actually getting a nation that's fallen in love with, as you say, sport, rather than it just being, just the football team for the girls and just the football team for the boys. So, I think it's got to be a positive thing. Do any of you have any answers? Do any of you have any thoughts that you might have on it? I know that somebody put on here, we did highlight it a little while ago, saying, I just annoy them till they block me. Would you just advocate using that block button? Would you say, just don't bother posting your opinions on Twitter? It's a cesspit and it's probably not really worth it. Where would you go in terms of these sorts of things? Because I laugh and I joke when I say that, but is it really any different than telling, women when they walk through the street, they've got to take these precautions? It's very much a man problem, and it's the sort of thing that we should need to sort out. But I have zero pull on what another person puts on their Twitter page. How do you feel it can best be solved? And I'm going to ask Beth and Sarah on that, because ultimately you guys might know better.
To be honest, it's hard because there's different levels to it. There are people who are just ignorant and haven't watched it, and possibly if you take them to a game, then maybe they can get swayed to actually not hate it. But then there's the other level, which is just, you aren't going to change your mind. No matter how much you try, you're not changing their mind. They just have it ingrained in themselves that women's sport is crap. It'll always be crap. Women think like women should be in the kitchen. They shouldn't be doing anything. And I just ignore them. I don't interact with them in my daily. I try not to interact with them in my daily life. Thankfully, none of my family or friends are like that. Even my extended family is really cool about women's sports, which is surprising. But, well, not that surprising. But, yeah, I don't really know how to change them other than the lower, I guess you could call lower level of the guys, and just try to get them to at least watch videos of players doing skills, or take them to, like I said earlier, take them to a game, anything. But other than that, just block them, ignore them, try to not deal with them.
Sarah, anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, some people are they're just trolling, and, blocking them is the best thing to do. Some people, you will change their minds, others you won't. So it's kind of pointless trying with people like that. But I think overall, it's the ones who are really vocal. They will say, I don't like this. And example, recently, the last fans forum that United did, there was some comment about objecting to the women's team being on the cover of the official magazine, and saying, oh, the small group of people I asked have no interest in the women's team, so we don't want to see this. So, and it's just, they will make their voices heard. So I think in cases like that, it's just defiance. Just keep doing it. Keep making our voices heard. Keep pushing it out there. And if they don't like it, the more you do it, the more they'll try and push back. It really annoys them to see, for whatever reason, to see the women's game getting these big crowds, and just, you know, it's really winding them up. So let them be wound up. You know, we can laugh it off and just keep doing what we do, and they just have to move with the times, or tough, just put up with it.
You know what? I think it's going to wind them up even more when women's sport gets really, really, really big, and the men are wondering what on earth has happened once again. We'll save that for another time. Listen, I know that John will be desperate to go and watch the Forest game. He's already checked his watch a couple of times, bless him, and we have gone on a little bit.
I just flashed, you know, because I have the Manchester United app and all that.
Yep.
Right, and it's like, oh, there's not been a goal yet. You know?
But,
I got my predictions in.
Right. But I thought it was an important point to look at. I do want to finish with just one thing, because there's a new thing that's come out on the MUTV app, on the Man United app, and you can currently vote for your Manchester United Women's Player of the Month for January. So I'm just going to tell you the 4 players, and I'd like to know who you have, or who you will, or who you would have if you'd have had the app, vote for. Onabache, Mary Earps, Hayley Ladd, Rachel Williams. So we'll kick off. John, who would you go for?
Rachel Williams.
Beth.
Rachel Williams.
Ooh. Sarah.
I went for Honor.
You went for Honor. I have to say,
Very good shout.
I went for Rachel Williams as well. But yes, Honor is a good shout.
Although Mary will be a good shout.
It's very tough. They've all been brilliant.
Well, it's weird because I'm not the biggest fan of Player of the Month when you've only played 2 games, because that just seems a bit like, well, who's the best player from the 2 games kind of thing. I think it should be able to, like, you should play at least 3 or 4 games, and that way you get a better picture. But yeah, based on the 2, for me, Rachel.
Lots of people go in there. Sporties for Honor and for Mary. So it's just us 3 that have voted for Rachel by the sounds of things. Sporty reckons I need to get the predictions on the app for the women's team.
Yes, that's next.
Come to us. We're doing predictions for you. Stop trying to steal our games. What the how dare you? It's outrageous. No, you're right. They do. Of course they do. It's an easy thing to do. It's only for United, isn't it? And here, Connor, all I'm going to say to you is I hope somebody's voted for Hayley Ladd, because you know how upset you get. The 3 people being mentioned and you haven't voted for Hayley Ladd, so you should be very ashamed of yourself, and that's that. Listen, it's been a brilliant show. Thank you so much for joining us. The men are on, if you don't already know, so feel free to go and have a look at them, or not. You know, whatever you fancy, whatever you like. You want to watch this again. Don't know why you'd want to.
I'm surprised Nikita Paris wasn't a contender as well.
No, yeah. Well, you can only get 4. You see. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Update. Good lad. I know I can rely on you. Good job. And absolutely, you should. 100%. And while we're at it, it'd be nice if you could actually order a women's football shirt as a man. I never thought I'd see the day when I say this, but I look at it and I go, I don't think I want to buy that, just in case it turns out to be a women's one. And then I'll be wandering around wearing a women's football shirt. And it's a bit like when you have the women and the men's bike. And why is it the men's bike got that bar when the women's one doesn't? I feel like they probably got that one wrong when they designed that, especially when you put your brakes on, you're full. But that's another thing altogether. But I think you know what I mean, boys, because it linking well hurts, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, great day. Thank you very much. That went off on a tangent. Enjoy yourselves. Be here Friday 7 o'clock. I'm not in on the preview for once. It's looking unlikely. I might sneak in at 7:30. Depends when I get in. We'll see. Might not. Wind Connor up a bit. But cheers all. It's been much appreciated. See you Friday at 7, and see you next week here.